Sarah, not really her name, is a woman in her 30s with 2 kids at home, working full-time, and has a very sweet husband who does his best to help her. She feels tired, she feels stressed out, unhappy with her life, and she can't understand why either. She has 2 beautiful kids, a great husband, fulfilling job, a beautiful house. Even with COVID, she recognizes she has it better than most. So why is she so unhappy? And why does she feel so stressed? Have you ever felt like that? I'm Melody Brooke. I've helped clients with problems like these for more than 30 years. I'm a licensed professional marriage and family counselor and a professional counselor. Also, I'm the author of Oh Wow, This Changes Everything. Now, why is it titled that way, you might ask? Well, simply because if you really do understand it, it does change everything. It changes everything in your life. I wrote it because I want to make it easier for people to live more satisfying and fulfilling lives. Sarah is super hard on herself. She sees her mistakes and berates herself for making them. Granted, she recognizes she isn't really a terrible person, but it seems she can't stop herself from being overcome with thoughts of how stupid, idiotic, clumsy, dumb, and just plain wrong she is when things like that happen, when mistakes occur. She's juggling her job, she's trying to manage her kids at home, to keep her house in order, to see to her husband's needs for affection and time, and it just doesn't leave much room for mistakes. A toy gets left out, someone trips over it. Their very tight schedule gets thrown for a huge loop. Dinner left on the stove too long or not started on time can wreak havoc on the noise level in their house. Often she ends up yelling at one of the kids or snapping at her husband, causing friction and hurt feelings on both sides. Her husband, he doesn't know what to do to help her when she falls into these pits of despair, and she finds herself crying herself to sleep and angry with everyone. What I've discovered is that this scenario happens to all of us. Maybe not in that exact same way or over the same issues, but all of us can fall into tripping ourselves up this way. Is life stressful? Of course it is. Especially now in the middle of a pandemic when you don't know what to believe about how to keep you and your family safe, or even if there's the real threat or not. The economy crumbling because of shutdowns and fear of deaths increase the stress outside of our normal day-to-day stressors. Maybe your stress is more imminent, with a job loss looming or one already happening, a few prospects for work that are coming up. Maybe your spouse is losing patience with you for not bringing in needed income on top of your own fears. Maybe you just wonder how you're going to make your rent or mortgage payment. You have to get your kids to school and your school isn't offering homeschooling, so you don't know how to keep your family safe, or they're offering homeschooling and nothing else, and you don't know how you're going to manage months more of juggling your job and being a school monitor. All of these real-life stressors can really trigger an onslaught of self-blame, even though we know things are going on outside of us that are not our fault. But they can still trigger a sense of our not being enough, and believing that we can and should be bigger, better, smarter, more resilient, more capable than we ourselves are actually seeing ourselves as being. So what do you do when you fall short of your own expectations? How do you react? Typically, as I mentioned many, many times before, we have this old brain, a lizard brain reaction, which seemingly makes sense, but it's actually lying to us about what's going on. You're thrust into a place of feeling like the victim, and you're overwhelmed, you're stressed, you're fearful, and you feel trapped, despairing, helpless, and feelings that are so awful, and you end up turning on yourself. You find yourself saying horrible things to yourself about how you got into this situation, about how you should be smart enough, capable enough, and what the hell is wrong with you. Those thoughts that we rarely say out loud, we scream at ourselves inside our heads when things go wrong. When you can't control the outside reality of your life, you say those things to yourself that indeed you would never, ever say to another person. Certainly you'd never say those to your kids normally. You find yourself literally abusing yourself and how you think about yourself. Ask me how I recognize this process so easily. LOL, it's been my life experience too. I've found myself often enough with those thoughts going through my head when I make some kind of mistake or things in my life just aren't working out the way I think they should. I learned years ago, though, how to stop those thoughts from destroying me. And yes, they will indeed destroy you. Imagine if you talked to your best friend or your children that way. How do you suppose they would feel about themselves? What impact do you think that would have on them? Exactly. So why would you expect any different outcome from speaking to yourself that way? I've noticed that a lot of my clients they aren't aware they're saying those things to themselves, but once they stop and go mindful, take the time to breathe and really listen inside, they begin to recognize the part of them that is screaming those awful things. Often the voice is maybe coming from like a parent or a teacher or a coach or some bully in your life, but sometimes it's just your own fears speaking up. Many of us believe we somehow have to, quote, be perfect, to be okay, to be acceptable, to be lovable. LOL, if that were true, none of us would have anyone who loves us. But we all do, because perfect is some kind of bizarre idea that doesn't actually exist in human form. The truth is, we are all perfectly imperfect. We all have things about us that could use improvement, for sure. We all have those quirks and traits we wish we didn't have. We all have the tendency to think that we should be different than we believe ourselves to be. Sometimes those beliefs can drive us to strive to be better, to work at improving ourselves, and of course, that's a good thing. But more often than not, it actually prevents us from being all that we actually are. So how does it do that? Well, what it does is it throws us into a shame pit and a victim mentality where we only see the badness of our mistakes and we don't see ourselves in a balanced way. Learning to accept ourselves is probably one of the greatest challenges many of us face. Allowing that you are imperfect and yet perfect all at the same time allows you to shift how you think about yourself and react to those perceived mistakes and challenges that you face. Sarah finally recognized her limitations. She could not do everything she was being required to do. Few of any of us could. You see, one of her children has special needs, and this child was requiring a lot of her time and of her attention as she attempted to be everything for everyone at work and at home. But instead of continuing to beat herself up emotionally, she was able to see that she was all that she was accomplishing, and then see what things it was just not possible for her to do on her own. Fortunately, she was able to afford to cut back on her hours at work, and this reduced her sense of failure. She started laughing at her perceived shortcomings and making jokes about how she tends to forget things when her plate is too full. She started talking more kindly and gently to herself with compassion when things went wrong. Consequently, fewer things actually did go wrong. She was less stressed and overwhelmed, and once she started treating herself the way her best friends do, what do you think happened? So what's stopping you? What voices are lying to you today? I want you to really slow down and take the time to listen and be kind to yourself. Believe it or not, the world actually needs more of you and not less. Encourage yourself the way you would encourage others in your life, and you will be amazed at how much better your life experience becomes. And I would love to be on that journey with you. Check out my books on Amazon and find out more about me on my website, melodybrook.com, and I will see you there. So now I'm going to step up a little closer so that I can talk to anybody who happens to be here today. Hi, Sue. Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining me. And if you came in late, I hope that you'll go back and listen to the things that I talked about today, because I think there's very few of us that are not impacted by a struggle that we have with being able to accept ourselves as we are, because there's not any of us that don't have those little different ways of doing and being that doesn't match everybody else. When we are hard on ourselves in that way, when we beat up on ourselves, then we lose connection with who we really are and what our gifts are. And when we lose connection with our gifts and we start shaming ourselves, we start shutting down ourselves. And when we shut down ourselves, nothing good can come from that. The only real good in your life is coming directly from that life force spirit that is you. All of those things. And sometimes, there might be some areas you need to work on. I know I have my areas I need to work on. I am not a detailed person. Thanks, Paul. Thank you for listening today. I'm glad it made a difference to you. And I hope that other people listening to it will make a difference to you too, because I do want more of you to be more of you, because the more that you are, the better our world is. The more we hold back ourselves. Hi, Donna. So awesome to see you. The more we hold back on who we are, the less value that we're able to bring to the world. And a lot of us are brought up in environments. In fact, I just got off a session with a young woman today who was talking about the fact that her belief system and her parents' belief system from an early age were very different. And since they were very different, she felt she was wrong and bad, and so she developed self-esteem issues. She developed a sense of her never quite being enough. How many of us are struggling with that? Because so many of us grew up in maybe repressive households, or households where, maybe we were the active one in the family, or maybe we were the creative one in the family, or maybe we were the thoughtful, more introverted one in the family. And all of those things being different makes us feel like there's something wrong with us, which of course is not true. And we think, well, we need to work at being more of this, or we need to work at being more of that, which really we just need to work at being more of ourselves and stop trying to force ourselves into a box that fits somebody else's picture of who they think we were supposed to be. Because you are uniquely you. And if there's one thing I hope my children got growing up, was permission to be who they are. And my children, some of them were a handful, but they were also amazing, brilliant, creative, and had unique ways of looking at the world. And all of us do. We all have a unique way of looking at our lives, a way of looking at what's happening. And those points of view all make this cacophony of this beautiful tapestry of who we are as a human race, and we need all of those threads to make the tapestry work. And if your tapestry is missing the thread of you, if our tapestry, the world's tapestry, is missing the thread of you, well, there's something less about that. We are less as a human race than we were. So what was Donna saying here? Oh, it says my kids are amazing. I have to be a bragging mom and say, yes, indeed, my kids are amazing. I'm a very lucky mom indeed, in spite of some of the stuff I put them through, which I did put them through some stuff. But they are brilliant, amazing kids, and I'm very grateful for that. Who else is here? Oh, hi, Derek. Thanks for coming on today. I also would love to hear your thoughts of what kinds of challenges that you might have had, and any struggles that you might have had in that area in terms of being able to accept yourself. And I have to say, I'm just going to throw this in here right now, is that that's something I continue to struggle with sometimes, because there are so many things that are demanded of us every day. Even in our very limited world that a lot of us experiencing right now, there's still a lot of demands put on us, and we don't always meet those demands. And when we don't meet those demands, we tend to beat up on ourselves. We tend to criticize ourselves. We tend to see ourselves as not enough. We instead need to kind of shift our focus and say, okay, well, these things are true about me, but that isn't the whole story. that isn't the whole story of me. The whole story of me is way bigger than that. Because while I may be not as organized, not as neat, not as detail-oriented as other people, I may be a little bit more impulsive, and I may be a little more scattered in the way I think about things. The bigger picture is that I am also this creative, thoughtful, empathetic, person who has a creative side, who can look at things from a little different view than other people and put things together a little different than other people can. So all the bigger picture includes all of those parts of me. And when I reject some part of me, I end up feeling bad about the other parts of me. Do you see how that works? We can't shut out one part of ourselves and just accept another part of ourselves, because all of those parts work together to make us who we are. And that's the beauty of the human being. We're so complex. We're so difficult to figure out sometimes, but we all have these things in common. That is that we struggle with a lot of the same ways of thinking, that our old brain pushes us into these boxes of thinking that we have to be a certain way, and you don't. The most important thing is for you to be you, for me to be me, and for us to explore who that is in our lives and in our relationships. So Donna says, thanks so much. Great points. Take care. Thank you for being here today, Donna. So please make comments below. I will follow this and see, if there's anything I need to follow up on. I appreciate your being here today. And you can, again, find out more about me at melodiebrooke.com. And if you haven't seen my book, it's Oh Wow, This Changes Everything. I have a workbook that goes along with that. I have a workbook for couples as well. I have a lot of other interesting things happening on my website, soon to be launched, so check that out. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. And I will see you next week at 4 o'clock. See you then.